Welcome to another episode of Stable School podcast. Today we have Mikhail from Gearbox. And can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you started the protocol?
Yes, hi to everyone. My name is Mikhail and I am CTO and co-founder of Gearbox Protocol. Literally, I am in the industry since 2017 when I first heard about Bitcoin these days, blockchains. Ethereum was not so popular, so it was just a random conference I go because I was interested in IT, what's going on, etc. And then I felt in love in the idea of blockchain and how it could change the world. And after that, I participated in many hackathons. I won a lot of them, and Gearbox itself is a product I built for as Global Market Make Hackathon in 2021. It became a finalist and it had great traction. So literally people started to connect with me via Telegram. They send different messages and ask when it's go live. So after that, I team up with Ivan from LobsterDAO and Ilgis. We as a team started to build the protocol, and right now it will be like 5 years in January of a Gearbox protocol. And literally I'm so proud that we have no zero security incidents, zero bad debt, and we are very focused to make the protocol safe and security. And literally, I think the topic of our podcast, and it's my possession, how to make things safe in secure way.
Yeah, I think it will be like really interesting because I'm a security auditor. You are a founder and CTO of a product like that has no issues, like for now. And I believe it will be an interesting discussion. So can you tell us a bit more about Gearbox architecture and how it works and like what it provides to users, how they can use it?
So Gearbox use a different lending paradigm. In Aave or any other pool-based lendings, you put your money first and deposit into the pool, and then you can then they locked into the smart contract, and then you can borrow against it. In Gearbox, it works different. You open a credit account, and the best explanation of credit account is a smart contract wallet. So literally, you provide some money there, for example, 10 ETH, then you can borrow from the pool when other depositors provide their money. For example, 90 ETH, and then you have 100 ETH on your credit account, and you can literally interact with different protocols. What we do, we have a hook, and we check that you have enough money to pay the debt back after each transaction. If there is not enough money, the transaction is reverted and you could not mine it. If it's okay, you can do a multiple operations and leverage in the more native way.
Yeah, but it means like you do not lock your collateral in a protocol. You can like use it with some additional leverage and like different protocols and to get the highest API that you could.
Yeah, so I think the best way of this approach, and it's like a unique feature of Gearbox, if you go to normal lending and if you want to get a high leverage like 10x or 20x, you should do looping. So you put like ETH first, then you borrow USDC, you really exchange USDC into ETH and do it multiple times. And it's not inefficient, especially if you have a delayed withdrawals. Yeah, so for example, imagine you need a week to withdraw your money with zero slippage for protocols like staked ETH or RWA or RWA, and now it becomes more and more popular, especially for stables, because a lot of institutional players come into the industry, and of course they have no instant withdrawals because they already has some connections with real businesses, and it takes time. And if you use looping mechanics to get leverage, and it takes 1 week, if you have 7 or 10 times looping, it would take 7 to 10 weeks of idle liquidity when you want to unwind your position. In Gearbox, because all your money into a smart contract wallet, what we call the credit account. You can just send a transaction to withdraw them directly and get all money in a week, which creates much more capital efficiency, better timing, and another part, especially for industry players who want to set up their new RWA or new token. If you want to work with classical lending markets, you should somehow set up a DEX and provide liquidity there, because people should have this liquidity for liquidations, for going in and out to the position, etc. In Gearbox, there is no need. We use these smart wallets and we can really deposit directly into the protocol and withdrawal directly, even if there's some withdrawal delay. So it really simplifies the process and save costs for people who are interested to launching RWA, and especially for a stables market.
But like how it works with RWAs, if you use them in the credit account, you like provide it as a collateral and you borrow, I don't know, some stables on top to buy more RWAs, but in case your position like start losing its health and like RWAs go down, the price go down. And in this case, how you liquidate if there is no liquidity on the market?
It's quite understandable. So many RWAs, what we can see right now, also nominated in stable. So literally there is no direct risk of high volatility. And in this case, it's due the way that we create a special entity, special token, which represents this RWA during this withdrawal phase. And if it's true, of course, we have some parameters during liquidation, because we have some buffer and we have some liquidation premium. And for such kind of assets, risk curator who manages this market could make an agreement with market maker. For example, you can buy like staked ETH or some RWA, it doesn't matter, with 2 or 3% discount. And then, because unwrapping is already going, you get some underlying assets. So in this case, it's a very safe way for unwinding positions, because the biggest risk with health factor comes from interest rate in the pool itself. So it's not like the price dropped. It's more like the current interest should be paid back to lenders is more than the value of RWAs. And because there is no risk of volatility or intrinsic value, it's totally fine to find the counterparty who can really buy this token, phantom token we call them, which represents this position during unwinding, provide some money and get a high APY for such deals.
So it's like zero risk bond, right? You can buy it and in several days it will, like with some discount, and in several days it will cost, like it will give you the value with some premium on top.
Yes, there is no zero risk in any case of industry, but it's quite safe, because if you have an RWA which represents some stable assets in a different forms here, and it takes some money to get the money back here, and it's a totally fine for people who trust that they would give their money in a week or 2 weeks, it depends on, to really compute how much interest they want to really invest it into these assets. And because the schedule is already known, because the withdrawal process is already started, and many withdrawals process based on the smart contracts. So literally it's predictable. You can check withdrawal queue and make a decision. And if there is enough buffer, I think it's a very good deal for market makers.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, and like currently, as I see the market, the biggest use case for lending protocols and stables is to like leverage PT tokens.
Yeah,
like Aave is booming with it right now? And is there like any specific use case on Gearbox, and like maybe it's more efficient to use Gearbox in this case?
So for PT tokens, I think we have a very cool feature. It's also more about UX and things for end users. So literally you can take a debt, and the same thing in PT tokens. It's hard to unwrap and wrap back. So how it works in Gearbox, you borrow some stables, then you put them into PT token, and then you can use our credit account to interact directly with the Pendle protocol, and Pendle protocol provide a very simple operation to swap one PT token into another. So you should not really unwrap your position, maybe get some slippage, etc. You just make a comment, hey, now I want to switch to this PT, and that it's done. So I think this UX is much greater, and it also could save sometimes slippage.
And do you see any like activity regarding Pendle integration from Gearbox? Like how big is current market of PT tokens on Gearbox?
I think it's growing. Pretty cool numbers coming from Plasma right now. PT tokens is just starting there, so it's things happening right now, and we are really happy to be on Plasma since the day one. It's a good achievement there. I think the growth percentage is also impressive. So today I checked the pool size grows like 86% per day. So it was a big growth. And I think in this case, it would be a really nice game on Plasma. I'm really bullish about Plasma itself because Tether is a very big player with 500 billions of FDV. So it's like very good firm, and I think the Plasma itself could be a cornerstone network for payments, and I think they compete with Circle maybe and other different L1s which are in pipeline in the industry. So I believe this stable stuff would really grow on Plasma very active.
Yeah, actually it's like it's a very interesting topic. I would like to have another podcast about Plasma, but yeah, today we're talking about Gearbox.
Yes.
And like regarding the liquidations, like you have a lot of different assets that are storing on smart accounts because like you allow users to interact with different protocols.
Yeah.
And like how do you build liquidation, like efficient liquidation for this case? And maybe there is like some unique feature that you have on top of like basic liquidation.
I think so. During the liquidations, there is no such kind of unique features. Liquidation itself, it's a very, very complicated process for each lending protocol. And in Gearbox, I think maybe it's an interesting point because each protocol should decide the part you want to support. In Gearbox, we 100% on the lender side. So in my perception, depositors should be in a safe position anyhow in any case. And at this case, we have a pretty strict terms for borrowers. So we try to protect LPs as much as we can, and it's all-time compromise. So you can really move the slider to the left and make it safe for LPs, or to the right, which make maybe more profitable for borrowers. You can maybe make some delay for liquidations, etc. But then the risk for lenders are higher. And we make a deliberate decision to protect LPs as much as we can. So maybe for borrowers, it's sometimes a little bit painful, but liquidations work pretty easily. We just sell any assets back to underlying to recover your funds. In Gearbox right now, we have a partial liquidations, which could really reduce the loss of borrower because we just try to remove as the littlest part to cover the debt and make account not risky with health factor more than 1. But of course, for some cases, the full liquidation also could happen when we sell everything. But in Gearbox itself, we have a lot of unique mechanics in liquidations, and I think it's worth to know, especially for LPs. The first part, and it's a really unique feature in Gearbox, related to insurance fund. And I think it's a very good idea because the protocol itself makes additional protections for LP. How it works? Each time when fees are paid back to the pools, we do not keep them like a fees in some separate wallet. We reinvest it immediately. So we put money the protocol generated from its activity into active pool shares. And it's quite nice because at first it increases how much people could borrow from Gearbox. The second part, this money also generates some additional yield for DAO and for curators because we split these fees between DAO and curators themselves. And the third part, if bad debt could be accrued during the liquidation, we just firstly burn the LP to keep the same rate of LP token. So right now, I think in Gearbox, it's around $1 million in this protection fund. So literally, if a bad debt could occur, they will be covered automatically from these funds. And it's create a very good way because in many other protocol, even in our, if bad debt occurs, it could really create a bank run activity because people...
In our, they have umbrella now. I don't know if you heard about it.
Is it?
Yeah, it's like you can like restake your A token. They have market for USDT, USDC, and ETH. And like it gives you additional yield, which goes from the DAO activity. But if the bad debt happens on these markets, the part of slashing goes to this pool.
It's a seniority minority model.
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool. In Gearbox, we just make this coverage, so it works automatically. So the protocol itself tries not to make bad debt at any price, and until these funds from fees could be burned, they will be burned here. So it's like the core idea of this insurance fund, which is embedded into each market. And the second part we built, and I think it's also quite unique, we are very innovative in this case, it's called a loss policy, because we find that the different assets has a different nature. And for example, some of them are just a market one. So literally the token of any protocol has just a market price and nothing is underlying. So the best strategy during the liquidation is try to sell as much as you can from the protocol side to cover potential losses, because there is no guarantee that the price could cover it or returns back.
That's true.
For tokens, which represents ERC 4626 or maybe EverTs and LSTs, which has some intrinsic value like one ETH. Yeah, so literally you can exchange staked ETH in some period of time back to ETH. Yeah, it's backed by ETH. And there are a lot of stable RWAs and other protocols which also have some intrinsic value. You, as a curator, could really program a loss policy. So the protocol, if the liquidation do not touch LPs, do it the same way like usual. But if we detect that there is a potential loss for LPs, because the price could drop a lot, then we ask a second opinion and we recalculate these assets with alternative price feed. Because sometimes the assets could really, the market price could drop a lot during some FUD in Twitter, and maybe it could be a potential attack. Right now, especially for L2s, when the liquidity is tiny, it was like a kind of one way when Euler got some bad debt because people were able to manipulate DEX. The chain link itself tracks the DEX as a price source.
Only one DEX, as I remember.
Yeah. And it was a peak on Chainlink Oracle, and then immediately people tried to steal money from Euler. So it's like the worst case which could happen there. And in Gearbox, if we also could detect that the price were moved down, it's just protection. If someone tried to manipulate the price and liquidate a lot of positions, which could also end up with loss. We should really protect the protocol, depositors and borrowers as much as we can. So we use a second opinion. And for example, in this case, we can compute the price of ETH, staked ETH as ETH, and make a decision. And if we can find that it's not like a kind of global event, it's something which maybe have a short nature, short period, we make a decision not to liquidate. Curators could decide, and it makes a lot of sense. So it protects Gearbox Protocol for a lot of manipulation with prices, with new kind of assets, and it's a very good policy to set up and protect more your borrowers and lenders as well.
Yeah, it sounds like very reasonable, I would say, but like if we're talking about liquidations, like a lot of things happening because of like price movements, and you said that you're using the like second opinion.
Yes.
And who is like your second opinion in this case?
Second opinion, as I said, so literally imagine you have for example, you borrow ETH, and then you put into some new RWA, and you decided as a risk curator, as a market curator, to set up market feed. Then probably something happens with liquidity on chain, so the market feed detects that it's like a kind of the price drops, but there is a still intrinsic value which could be taken in a week. Yeah, so you can unwrap your RWA back and get your ETH back. But the market price is going down, and now it's like a 0.7 ETH. In this case, of course, some accounts could be liquidated. So the liquidator calls a function in Gearbox. This function checks, oh, there is potential bad debt for the pool, and it calls a special contract. And this contract has alternative pricing for assets which have intrinsic value. So this contract say, hey guys, in terms of bad loss, let's assume that each price of this RWA would be like 1 ETH, and we recompute the total value one more time. And if it's greater than debt, the liquidation will be cancelled. So literally, it's like the way of the policy which could be set deliberately by market curators, and then it's used in terms of bad debt and some unexpected events. And of course, many lending protocols works very well in majority of time. In 99%, it works pretty fine. But this protection is crucial to have during this market turmoil, during these cascade liquidations, etc., when really such policy could save a lot of money for both parties of the protocol and remove headache for market curators.
Yeah, that's true. And what about policies? Like, which policies do you have? Because this one that you mentioned about, like, saying like staked ETH is equal to 1 ETH.
You can set up so alternative pricing for any asset. So if you believe that RWA itself will all time cost like 80 cents, yeah, so you can set up a lower price. Another part, you can also make whitelisted liquidators for such kind of events. Why it's crucial? It's not because we want to make such kind of things whitelisted, but if you liquidate with some price which could make liquidator potentially very rich, yeah, maybe it's a bug in price feed, yeah? and then somehow the price feed gets the incorrect price, and then liquidator could make a lot of money. If you have still whitelisted liquidator, you take all money into known pocket, then you can really make a policy and return it back to users. Otherwise, it was a fair deal. Liquidator get just money from a liquidation process, and if it happens regarding like bug in the price oracle or anything else, it's still like a wallet deal here, so you can't do anything. It's another part. So yeah, literally the whole process is covered with multiple shields there.
Yeah, I think it actually a really nice feature. Like, you definitely can understand on the smart contract level if something goes wrong with the price oracles, but you don't know like who to trust in this case. You just like use a whitelisted liquidator.
Absolutely.
And after that, after some period of time, you can understand what was happening wrong and like decide to return this money back to the pool, or it's very nice.
So it's another way to keep protected, because some potential attacks we all time consider. So of course, when you start to audit internally any kind of protocol, of course there are some potential attacks, and liquidations it's also could be a target for attackers. As you know, there were a lot of cases when people use liquidation process to attack protocols, drain pools, etc. Of course, we made a great job to consider all different cases, and unfortunately, because all lending pools depends on price feeds. Not maybe all, but
there is one. Their name is, which one? I forget. Ajna one.
Yeah.
They don't have price oracles, but it's hard to grow with these concepts.
I think it's also a little bit the problem there that it's all time we also consider it's kind of risks related to time window. So literally many people do not understand the nature of price. So people believe that price is something happens on their screen, and that is, but price is all-time aggregated value. So how it's computed, we have multiple deals on different dexes, CXs, etc. Then there is some aggregation process. So literally you combine data for the last hour or 15 minutes or seconds, it doesn't matter. And then you compute average, or you can take any kind of
median value.
Median value, yeah. So it's up to you. It's also a policy how you aggregate data. And then it's called price. But if you have like a sparse data, yeah, when there is not many deals, or you have not enough sources to compute it properly, it's all time could end up with manipulation. And in this case, of course, you should understand pretty well the nature of price and the timing you use to compute it. Because if you use a very large timing, for example, average price for the whole day, and then the problem of price drops happens, your reaction will be too slow. So when your contract could really allow liquidations, it could be too late, because people really make decisions pretty fast right now on the chain. And especially the opposite also true if you set up a very short time window to aggregate price data, you can be easily manipulated, because if it's like a few minutes, someone could really make a lot of deals on improper price and use this price to drain some lending protocols, etc., which is also not good. So it's a very complicated process how to aggregate this data properly and transfer it on chain. And of course, the lending protocol itself, because we do not control any price feeds, we open to any protocol now. We work with Chainlink, with PETH, with Redstone, but of course, a lot of new price oracles are also coming. So market curators could choose from different choices there, but still, we really cover all possible cases. What happened if the price oracle will deliver incorrect data, and we have protections for both cases, if it will be data lower than market value or if it would be a higher value. So both cases are protected well.
Yeah, I think it would be interesting to discuss like how would Gearbox react on the situation with USDC Depeg, not Depeg, but like this short period of time on the weekend when everybody was like on a vacation or something like this. For example, was like driving the enduro bike, and it was happening. I was like, I started the ride, and I decided like I need to buy USDC right now because it's of course it will restore the value. But when I came back home, it already restored like most of its value. So like how Gearbox would react on this?
So we never hard code any kind of data as a price oracle, and we do not recommend it for our market curators. So I think it's a literally very bad policy. During this USDC Depeg, no one knows well that it's covered here because there were no official data from USDC. So during the whole weekend, people were really distinguished into two groups. Some of them say, hey, it's like a kind of risky asset right now because no one knows about the Silicon Valley Bank future. It's a problem, so probably they could lose some amount of money. And other people say, hey, we want to buy it with leverage at any volume. Please give us $1 for 97, or I think it was 95.
95 at some point, yeah.
Yeah. So Gearbox works pretty well, so we do not change any policy. So if someone could get liquidated in terms of price will lower, it's totally expected behavior because our purpose is to protect LPs. And if LP, for example, deposited in different assets, not USDC, for example, into USDT or DAI, and then someone use it for curve farming, when USDC take some share of the pool, and then some value was drops and the liquidation could happen as a result, it's totally fine because LPs and depositors should be protected for any market stuff. It's why they deposit their money safely and do not worry all time. But luckily we had no liquidations regarding to USDC, if I remember correctly. So
it's good. And it also, like, I was thinking about with the current state of market, there are so many stable coins, and I suppose like Gearbox is support a lot of them. And for stable coins, which supposed to cost like $1, the price oracle maybe doesn't make a lot of sense. It may be like more secure to use like oracles that say what is how to say it correctly, like what's backing the stable coin, what's like current back of the stable coin and what is its value. And in this case you can decide if the like backing is reducing, this maybe affect its price. In this case it's maybe like better to liquidate it, because I don't believe that with the current amount of stable coins it will be possible to build so many like dexes. I mean, like to set up so many dexes and to bring a lot of liquidity there. We should like solve it somehow like more efficiently.
So I think it's more question to price feed producers like
That's true.
Chainlink, Redstone, Pith, etc. So I think they have more experience. I am not so experienced into this field, but what we definitely recommend in Gearbox, we have a very flexible way how you can set up a price feed. So you combine like a chain, so you can connect different price feeds into each other and make the price generation more advanced and well. For example, what we do for and recommended for stables. In Gearbox, we compute all assets when we compare debt, etc. into US dollars. So we already like a stable protocol. at this case, and it was an idea from Chaos Labs, our risk underwriter, to set up additional price feed which cap the USD value as a upper range. So literally, no one expects that stable could cost 1.04 or more because it's a stable coin. It's not a yield generation coin. And in this case, we already suggest to all our market curators to use price feed with this cap. So what we did to make things even safer, because there were some cases, I believe it was in Morpha, when it was a misconfiguration of price feed, which also end up with some losses. In Gearbox, we built a special factory which is called priced feed store, and we have a dedicated role. So these guys should also check that the price feeds which available for market curators go through a very easy check. So they are normal contract, they really were deployed by Chainlink or Redstone. It's not like a malicious or hacker contract. The price returns well, so it's also a crucial thing, etc., etc. So we create a kind of catalog when market curators could choose the proper price feed regarding their assets. And for stables, we all time makes this cap price feed to make the system itself safer, because we know a lot about the nature of the stables, what we can expect from them, and of course making some range of prices, it's a very good safe policy.
And what about lower cap? Do you have it, or like if some stable goes down, you...
At this case, you should use loss policy as a market curator. So it's the core idea. You have no idea why the price is going down here, but for such cases, you should set up the loss policy properly. And in this case, you really cover all bad edge cases.
Yeah, sounds good. And like, for example, if you have like unlimited budget and unlimited time, what like more security features? Because I know it's like for building some like security features, it takes a lot of time and money. And when you build in a product, usually you prioritize something for users to acquire more and like grow, but you also have to think about security. And for example, if you have like unlimited budget and unlimited time, what more security features you would add to Gearbox?
So literally, we put security on the first place. So maybe it's why we do not grow so fast. But I still, in long term, it's a correct approach. I just try to understand how I choose banks for deposits in real life. And people prefer really stable and safe banks more than something like new, maybe with higher APY, because the risk of loss is all time which create a barrier for liquidity and more money coming on chain. So it was like the initial decision that our high priority is to be the most secure and safe for lenders. Because as you can see right now, people are looking for TVL, and TVL comes from lenders and depositors there. And we already built, like we spent around a year to build a permissionless system, and it's a very unique. It's a very unique, only Gearbox has right now the system for safe deployment. And what we did right now here, so as you know, many protocols, and it doesn't matter, are they managed by voting or via risk curators, provide a large possibility to set up risk parameters. And sometimes if you set up these risk parameters incorrectly, you can somehow rug your users, because maybe you reduce LTV to a very small value, and then as a result, a lot of users could be liquidated. We really write all possible scenarios for Gearbox, and then we really solve them one by one to make a smart contract system which limits all potential bad use cases if you're a risk curator, but of course keep the same level of flexibility to manage markets and do it in a proper way. And another part comes from this idea, and I think it's like how now the security is shifted. So previously people, a lot of them say, hey, we want to pay money for audits, but it doesn't matter all other stuff related to security. So front-end is just a JavaScript, nothing matters. It was like my idea all times that people like hackers will try to attack each piece of infrastructure. And in this case, we already seen the February case with Safe when 1.5 billion were stolen, and it was not a problem with Safe contracts, it was attack regarding to centralized infrastructure. So to remove all possible cases, we built a bytecode repository. So we store all bytecode of all our smart contracts on chain on mainnet Ethereum, and market curators could not use this bytecode until it's not going through the auditor's verification. So we really distinguish roles. Developers who work on the protocol could not approve the smart contracts to be used by market curators. So external party like Mixbytes could come to Gearbox. We have a short list of proven parties to audit these contracts, and only after that these contracts could be deployed. And it really removes the risk that developer computer who really built markets for someone or deployed on a new chain could be somehow attacked. The bytecode could be changed a little bit. Somehow you could not really check if you try to grow fast all even verified smart contracts, because if there is a one simple change, it's impossible for human to find the difference if you can see a lot of smart contracts. Even if it's not so big contracts, it's all time you use different libraries, etc., etc. In Gearbox, we did it automatically, and there is no possible way as attack on supply chain during the deployment process. And then we built a system to replicate this across multiple chains. So right now, to deploy a new chain takes for us like 10 minutes, and it could be done for anyone. You should not be a developer, everything is automated and secured by this way. So we built a very robust system for growth, as I said, and the core born stuff is price feed store, which really a filter from malicious price feed or misconfigured. The second part is bytecode repository to keep all bytecode updated. So we built a lot of stuff how to make updates of the smart contract. It's another interesting topic. How to really make all decisions on behalf of market curators. So there is no way to force them to update anything or change anything. And the second part is the way how we replicate the system across multiple chains in a safe way, because everything is signed cryptographically, the problem is solved. But right now, if I have an unlimited budget, I think the most interesting part is how to deliver some. It's not like a price oracle, but it's oracle regarding financial markets. So combining with AI, we can provide more insights regarding things happens in real life, which is not easily transferable to real value. For example, what happened if the some protocol got hacked, yeah, and it potentially could be used as collateral. Right now there is no like hack oracle, unfortunately, in the industry.
There is not insurance market, but like I don't remember the name, but they're like have bets will be protocol hacked or not. I don't remember their name, but they built something.
Yeah, but it's my point that this insurance market, if they build a prediction market for such purposes, it's all time related to the price of manipulation. If I am a potential hacker, I can just compute that I should deposit, like, I don't know, take a flash loan or some kind of short-term loan, then I can move the words that protocol got hacked, then the price got down, maybe it could force liquidation, and then I can make a lot of money. So, and it's a very straightforward way how I can compute and try to hack. So I think the system should be based more on reputation, should understand well, maybe analyze some transactions. So it's a very complicated task, to be honest. It's why it's not implemented very well yet. But still, given a lot of information regarding markets, liquidity sizes, etc. on chain, could really make protocol behavior smarter in different edge cases. As I said, so literally, when everything is nice, the lending protocol could be designed in a very simple way, but what you should take into account, what happened if, and if you could really get more information on chain, it could really be automated via smart contracts, and as a result, this automated decision would be much greater than right now.
Yeah, I agree. I do remember how we were exploring an oracle, like ZK oracle, that can show like what's current liquidity for some specific asset on the market, on like DEXs and SEXs, and it could help like lending protocols to decide, is it better to like pause the market or not? Because like if some specific token is short on liquidity on the market, it's better, like most probably it will be impossible to liquidate the market, like if something wrong happens with its price.
Yeah, but it's still so even right now it requires like special things. I am not so good in risk computation in this quant maths because it's a little bit different way of smart contract development. But what we did right now to analyze, so right now it's not on chain, but we built a very robust monitoring system to check what's going on. And for example, we have a system which is called optimistic liquidation. So each half an hour, we have a robot which launch a test net, and then it tries to liquidate all accounts right now to check liquidity layers and all potential problems. And then we have reports all time. So we monitor solvency, we monitor price feeds and their expected value, we monitor liquidity through this optimistic stuff, and of course it makes my life all time worse because I have to understand what's going on, ask people to go deeper, etc., etc. For example, even yesterday it was a tweet related to Pendle. Yeah, it's interesting case why Gearbox saves a lot of other protocols. So it was a use case that someone wrote on Twitter that Pendle got hacked. Of course, immediately I got a message, someone forwarded to me. We start like a war room to understand, because then we found that one of our market curators has such token. Of course, we immediately forward all data, and then we go to understand what's going on. Of course, because the risk could be false positive, you should not pause on any kind of stuff. And luckily, it was a kind of attack on the wallet, not on the Pendle protocol. Pendle is a very good design, so I also expected not a Pendle hack. So literally was a pretty straightforward. But what happened next? It's interesting. Then everything was decided. We really understood that there is no risk. We also asked one more time for our market curators about their emergency actions and what they expected to do in case it could be a problem here. Because all time you should train people, and now Gearbox is managed by external market curators, what you should do if something happens. And we have such kind of trainings to explain them a lot of variety, emergency features, how you can forbid one token and do not pause everything, how you can forbid increased borrowing to really also protect in different cases. But the next part, we have a monitoring which monitors Pendle price feed for another token. I think it was PT October 2025 or 2026, I forgot. And then we got messages that the Oracle does not provide correct data. So it's reverted all time. Wow, what's going on? So we got immediately, so next block when the problem occurred, we got a notification that the prices is not going to the price oracle. And it was a Pendle problem because they have a, I forgot the name, calibration or something like that, parameter, which set up the aggregation window based on how many trades are done. And because people maybe follow this FAT from the Twitter, start to make trades on this market, it was overflowed. So one of our developers understood the issue. He clicked, it's a public function on Pendle protocol to increase the window, and then the price returned back. So the price oracle started to functioning. But it's the way how we get the information about potential problem immediately. So we have an internal Telegram channel which really make and provide the information across multiple networks, what's going on with price feeds, with our markets, with different things regarding liquidity layers on multiple protocols. So we try to at least analyze and make recommendations for market curators if something could go wrong. And of course, we try to predict, because it's not only emergency actions. If you can see that maybe liquidity is going down faster, maybe it's also a sign to think what's going on. Maybe it's a predictor for some bad consequences.
Yeah, it's nice. Actually, I didn't know, but I think it should be like a general practice for all protocols that build like infrastructure for risk curators to train these risk curators how to react on some specific like actions, and like if something happens with the protocol or with their specific market, what they can do and what they should do. Because I don't know if this type of training is happening in more for Euler, but it's very nice. Yeah.
I think they all, of course, they already did. So I think we should make Ethereum is a really safe place. And what I can see right now is that maybe, I think around even 4 years ago, there were a lot of hack regarding to smart contract. Luckily, they were all documented. People learned from them how to develop smart contracts in secure way, how to audit them properly, how to monitor. And right now, I could see there were more attacks on the supply chain, unfortunately. As you can see, it was previously with NPM package. It was a very famous, and I think it's a very bad sign. So right now, because the speed of development was very, very increased, especially with vibe coding. So right now, a lot of leaps you can use for your off-chain infrastructure could really be infected because they updated pretty fast. And another part I already want to mention, so it was a few problems regarding to RE's client like a month ago or so, and Aragon as well. And we also detected them because we have a lot of stack based on the state, so the state was not updated properly. And maybe I think it's a kind of more Ethereum scope of problem which could be solved properly, because luckily we have only monitorings. We do not have like a lot of automation like trading here, but people who get incorrect data for their trading bots and make a kind of incorrect decision, of course, could really end up with this problem. And luckily we should cover all piece of stake. And for example, in Gearbox, it's a very also quite and unique things how we help market curators to make transactions in a safe way. I can also explain. I think it's a very good way we found it. So we have a interface to when you can really make a batch of transaction, how you want to update your markets here. Maybe you want to change, maybe you want to deploy the market or change some risk parameters or add new collateral. It's up to you. And it also designs a way when everything is human readable. So if you change a parameter, we show the difference what was before and how it was changed. And we have a lot of tricks, like we analyze issues. You could not really generate the batch before you go in through the simulation. So we have a very wide and very powerful cloud simulation. Literally, you send this batch of transaction into our server. It really start an Anvil entity and run multiple tests to understand what happens. So you can get a report. Maybe as a result of your changes, some accounts could be liquidated. Maybe there is a problem as opposite, that some accounts could not be liquidated anyhow because you configure some adapters improperly and there is a problem. So you get a really great report regarding consequences of what you do. But it was not enough for us. And why? Because I want to be protected from the issue what happened with SAFE. Yeah, so in our internal things, we assume that this system, because it uses some backend to store changes, could be got hacked. So we really assume it could be hacked to make a proper shield for risk curators. So what we did, when you build a transaction in this system, they never goes directly on chain. Instead of that, you generate a batch and store it on IPFS. IPFS is immutable, so if you store something on IPFS, nobody can change it. And then we built another system which is a real front end, which has no server, nothing. It's also stored on IPFS and it's not changed a lot. So when you store the batches of transactions you are going to put into safe and on-chain, then you open another system and it reads carefully everything from this batch from IPFS, and it also shows you all changes you made. So it's a double check. If someone could get an access to our web servers, break the system, change any code, all market curators has an IPFS version which is immutable, and it shows them up that this is a very risky or bad changes. So I think it's a very good way. And after that, we also advise to use direct interaction with SAFE, not to keep these transactions to avoid the risk regarding this Bybit hack. Mm-hmm. It's not a huge amount of money to pay the gas and provide signatures directly on chain. It also saves a lot of, how to say, potential stuff. And I think this human readability, it's a very, very significant part, because today contracts, they are very complicated.
That's true.
If you have transactions which interact maybe with a time log, and then it could be wrapped, and then it sends something to a factory, etc., it's a very big part of call data. And in my point, if you have signers in SAFE, you could not ask them to sign call data. They should sign a very understandable piece,
a list of actions.
Absolutely. And you should read them and understand consequences. So we spend a lot of efforts to make everything understandable. For example, if instance owners, people who manage price feed repository, I mentioned today, add a new price feed. And of course, it's all-time multi-sig. When people sign these transactions, they all-time could see the price for this particular or specific asset. It also creates additional shield, because people, if they understand what they are doing, they try to do the best. If they could see a bunch of call data, maybe AI agents can understand, but humans not.
That's true. Yeah, like I a lot can be discussed. I mean, like it's nice, and what I can see in like your vision about security, it's very right. I mean, like you're trying to think about all the mistakes that people can do, and trying to like reduce risk from these mistakes.
Absolutely.
Like trying to set specific range for parameters for initial, so people like cannot mistakenly put some, I don't know, incorrect value there, or also like trying to minimize like human interaction with blockchain, so it can be like hacked some way. So yeah, it's nice, and I believe it's very important. It also, it's what's nice here. It's if we're talking about supply chain attack, in this case, like if you minimize risks from the interaction, in this case, supply chain attack, it's not that like harmful for the protocol.
I think we can really minimize a lot supply chain. So we started to think about these cases. Do you remember it was a curve hack where someone...
Viper?
No. With, I think it was a DNS provider who maliciously changed the resolvement of their domain, and as a result, some users got rugged. So right after that, we built a DNS bot. We just track our website and some websites we rely on. For example, for Redstone, you somehow, even if you use an SDK from Redstone, you also pick some data from them. So we added all these websites which are critical to monitor to DNS bot, and we track any changes, and we also monitor them and put into the channel people could check, because it's a very simple piece of code, but it could save a lot of time. And I believe in the future, when on-chain will be more and more robust, people try to find the attack vector based on front ends, based on server side. Right now, a lot of people try to build servers, and I believe it's good to create a great UX for end users. And I don't against right now, maybe it's not the values when we wanted to put everything on chain, all business logic, but it's good to have some cache, etc. But my point here is that you should design them differently than you build normal Web 2. Because in normal Web 2, you have a possibility to change your database back. You can roll back, and in many financial institutions, transactions are revertible. So if something goes wrong, you can really take the money back. You can add additional delay for additional check, like banks. So they try to use a different anti-fraud system before transactions is submitted to execution layer. In Web3, we have like the system, if transaction is mined, there is no way to undo. And in this case, when you build any server or anything else, you should really consider the case, what consequences if it would be got attacked and malicious actor takes the full control of your server or your front end. What's your next actions to eliminate the risks? Of course, we could not control the DNS because it's by DNS provider, yeah? So we've done a lot. We could not really make even better, but we can track, and of course, in case of any potential problem, we can tell users, hey guys, the problem happens. In case of server, we can also monitor them, but we can by design, as I said, with this, make additional protection when everything is stored on IPFS, and it's a very good way to make things before going on chain. So I think in the future, IPFS and such approach, when you use TE maybe to confirm that everything on the server side was computed correctly, would really grow a lot.
Yeah, I agree. Like with currently there are like a lot of off-chain stuff, and yeah, but we can increase security of it, of course, in the future. But yeah, like if we wrap up our discussion,
yeah,
like you spend a lot of time on security, and like you said, Gearbox live already for 5 years now.
I think no, we launched. I think we launched in December of 2021, the first version. So it was started in January, and then of course we built the production version. So 4 years here. So luckily we have a zero bad debt, but I use luckily because of course it's also our best efforts, auditors' efforts, and risk underwriter efforts, so all together, and of course market. So for some reasons, for example, things like...
But for the last 4 years, market was going crazy several times.
Yeah, of course we try to cover all potential stuff. So we try to do it by simulating different edge cases, and we try to predict what could go wrong to make additional protection. Of course, all time when any event in security happened, we analyzed and tried to understand what we could do better to improve and really react properly on this event.
So yeah, if we are talking about like newcomers who just like decided to build their first protocol, what's like your general like idea what they should think of about security on their first steps? Like they cannot build everything that you have right now because it takes like a lot of time. Of course, some of the features like they're open source, but still they don't have like so many time, but they should like focus on some specific I don't know, like security features, and what it would be like. What would you recommend for them?
I don't know. I think the most significant part during this smart contract development is to understand well what you are doing. It's a very, very significant. So right now there are a lot of people who just try to use vibe coding for smart contracts. I'm not against vibe coding.
But it's smart contracts. It's
also totally fine. You can really increase your productivity, but at the end of the day, you should understand each line perfectly until it's going to production. And the same also actual for if you even fork a protocol with our people forked our, and then it was like an inflation attack, and our also reported how you should deploy the pools properly, etc. But if you do not understand everything in details, you can fail easily. So my real point is to just add a lot of comments, make things human readable, things a lot about even how you name your variables in the smart contract. Because if you build a piece of understandable logic, if you make any things recognizable by users, for example, if you make a EAP 712 signature, name all fields properly, like a thing I can read from top in my wallet to bottom and understand each field, what I am signing right now. Because a lot of things, and hackers use this trick a lot, comes from pretty complicated data. People do not understand it, and then errors occurs. A lot of things with rounding errors in the smart contracts are the same, that people try to copy some logic and say, hey, we used like these rounding positions. Why? Because we used them. Okay, but is it the best choice for you? Is it the experience of Aave and the timing when they build this rounding works perfectly for you right now? So you should ask questions for yourself, and of course monitor what you build. So in this case, I think it's very good to start from even from the day zero to understand what's going on in different systems. Try to check how users use your system, try to detect any abnormal behavior, because it could also shows you a lot. And another part, try to consider all cases. So right now I met a lot of developers who try to just solve the task. So if the smart contracts wall for some routines, it's enough. But for blockchain, because we do not control it here, like in Web 2, you should consider all possible edge cases. It's not enough that your contract do everything correctly. in the main flow, you should consider that it works correctly or expected in all possible edge cases. Take more time, but then you will really sleep better.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point. But yeah, if wrap up what you said about the like recommendations, I think we can say that you should build everything like in a clean and understandable way
Absolutely.
to yourself and to your users.
And to other developers and to
Yes.
security auditors, etc. Because smart contracts and Web3, it's not only about the code, it's about the community. And sometimes people could, if you go to bug bounty program, yeah, so there are a lot of security researchers and they are not motivated to focus only on your protocol. But of course, if you provide good documentation inside your smart contracts, if you provide very understandable way of doing things, of course they could find some potential bug easily. Then you write something using vibe coding, it's like a lot of code, pretty messy, because neural network could understand easily, even it's a 1 million tokens, there is no difference for neural networks. But for humans who can help you a lot, it's a bunch of pretty complex structures. Then people and humans has a very small context. We could not analyze a lot of stuff. So we can read one line and think about for a long period and understand what's going on. And even when your smart contracts are well documented, you attract more people from security community who are happy to help. You really make understandable what the expectations of each function. So it's all time good, and I think it's worth to spend time to make it readable, human understandable, even right now when AI try to replace all of us. Maybe for AI it's also good to use some automatic audition software. If you make a lot of comments, it's also adds some context for them as well.
Yeah, I think it's also a really nice topic for another podcast about like AI developing and auditing. It's like a lot of things happening there. It's nice, but yeah, it's a long topic. But yeah, thanks, Mikhail, for this podcast. It was a very interesting stuff that we discussed.
Thanks for inviting.